I think people witnessing this debate here this evening, and firstly to say I fully respect the right of any party to use their parliamentary time in whatever way they see fit. So tabling a motion of no confidence in Minister Eoin Murphy, or indeed any other minister, is your right and is perfectly permissible in procedures. I think the one question that many people have asked, including many in the media, but people that I speak to as well, is the timing of that very motion. And I think, really, if we're very honest with each other, I think most people will see it as a cynical manoeuvre to what was to try and garner attention in advance of the by-elections, and that's, I think, the truth of it. I think what people will see here this evening already.
Deputy Shortall, you may have an opportunity, and if you have, Deputy Shortall.
I didn't interrupt your colleague once.
Deputy Shortall, I would ask you to desist from interrupting.
I fully respect the right of the member to speak. I didn't interrupt her colleague either. I'm just stating what is, in my own opinion, and what is thousands of other people's opinion across this country. That's the reality of it. I think what people will have seen already in the short few minutes of this debate is already a blame game between Social Democrats and others, government trying to blame other people on the way back, you giving us a history of former housing ministers trying to blame Labour ministers, Green ministers, anyone else. You have a responsibility yourself, and we know that. The people watching in here, the people who this country is in the grips of a housing crisis. And I think what people want us to do, and I know what they want us to do, is to actually show how we fix it and what alternatives we would bring forward. Now, I, as housing spokesperson on behalf of my party, have published 13 pieces of legislation in the last 14 months, dealing with everything from strengthening security of tenure, tenants' rights, student rents, affordable housing, owner management companies, multi-unit developments, ombudsmans in this area, strengthening the rights that people have in housing, and that's what people, I think, want to see. This motion, one way or another, is not going to house one person or take one person off the homeless list. It will not do that. It will be seen for what it is. It will be seen as something and not putting forward any solution whatsoever. We would do things differently in Fianna Fáil, and we have said that, and the public will get an opportunity to do that. I think really, Deputy Shortall, if anyone believes who's watching in, that it would be beneficial for this country to plunge itself into a general election on Christmas week or shortly afterwards, in advance of another Brexit deadline of the 31st of January, I really don't think that the public are on your side on this. Certainly others then who've jumped on the bandwagon, like Sinn Féin, who have said, well, it need not bring down a government. The fact of it is, and the precedence is, that voting no confidence in the minister that I've been highly critical of, and he will tell you that himself, and we put forward alternatives, would bring down this government. And if you think in Sinn Féin that is a good position for this country to be in advance of a Brexit deadline on the 31st of January and a UK general election on the 12th of December, well then that's for you to put your case forward. But you in Sinn Féin have, in fairness, presided over pulling down a government in the north of Ireland that hasn't sat for 3 years. And if you look at the record of Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland on housing, and I know from Deputy O'Brien's book, he had a partitionist book because he never referred to the north of Ireland and Sinn Féin's track record in the north of Ireland on housing. When you have 37,859, wasn't a great book, but I did read it, 37,859 applicants on the social housing list at the end of March. 7 out of every 10 households waiting for a social home were deemed to be in priority need of housing, officially described as in housing distress. Of the 26,387 applicants in housing distress, 74%, nearly 20,000, were officially considered homeless. That's Sinn Féin's record on housing and homelessness in the north of Ireland. In the north of Ireland, where they've actually walked away from their responsibilities. Now, what Fianna Fáil won't do...
Deputy O'Brien, could I interrupt?
No, they are the facts, I'll ask John Corder. What Fianna Fáil won't do...
Deputy O'Brien, could I interrupt you?
Of course you can.
All your remarks are through the chair.
They are indeed.
And if you're going to have a debate on the side, there are other places for that.
Okay, let's no inviting unfortunately, that is the truth of the situation. That is the track record there. Now, what we won't do We have put the national interest first in sticking with a confidence and supply arrangement that, frankly, in many instances has not suited, has been difficult to do politically, but we've put country first ahead of narrow party political gain, and that's what we will continue to do. And the public will get an opportunity. The public will get an opportunity. It will get an opportunity early in the new year to actually look at what each of our parties are putting forward as an alternative and how we would fix the housing crisis, how we would ensure that we stop the fall in home ownership rates in this country, how this government that has presided over the highest homelessness rates, the unaffordable rents, condemning a whole generation of people into affordable rent. Fianna Fáil have alternatives for that, and I think what people want to see is how we would fix that, not these type of motions that will be seen exactly for what they are, was trying to garner publicity and support for the Social Democrats. That is fine, but I think as part of it, you need to actually state what you would do differently. And I think early next year, and the public will be insisting upon parties and those who put themselves forward in front of the election to show them what they would do differently. And what Fianna Fáil will do differently is put home ownership at the centre of the solution to this housing crisis. Build more public housing and control our rents and make sure that people will have a safe and secure home for them and their families.
Deputy Pat Casey.